Jaya Panchataka Jaya Panchataka Jaya Panchataka Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Pranovistam Stapitam Nena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinavando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vacha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachaline Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So Happy New Year to everyone. So hopefully everybody had a nice New Year. And we are beginning this New Year with a very, very auspicious welcoming of this Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita into the home of Anand Prabhu and Nirmala Prema Mataji. So thank you very much for inviting us and enabling us to participate in this most wonderful process of bringing this Chaitanya Charitamrita into our home, your home. And hopefully we can bring this Chaitanya Charitamrita, more importantly, into our hearts. I explained a few weeks ago about the glories of Chaitanya Charitamrita when we had the installation ceremony. And so, if you want, you can refer back to that. I won't repeat all of that. But I'll reiterate a couple of key things. One, we said that if all the books in the whole world were lost, but somehow Chaitanya Charitamrita was saved, nothing would be lost. Now that's a bold and grand statement. But we went through a very long explanation of why that is a fact. So if that still is a question mark to you, I encourage you to go back and hear that class. Because the Chaitanya Charitamrita is the pinnacle of all Shastra. It contains the sweetest essence of devotional service. And we have proof of this, that when Srila Prabhupada decided to cross the vast Atlantic Ocean and he was aboard a cargo ship, he brought very few things with him. He did not have much capacity. But one of his personal possessions he brought was Chaitanya Charitamrita. When he was feeling separation from Sri Vrindavan Dham, in the tumultuous ocean, being tossed up and down, left and right, he says he was taking shelter in his Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is an extraordinary compilation by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami on the life and activities of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is considered the foremost and most authoritative scripture on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There are two other principal books that have discussed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That we have Chaitanya Bhagavat and Chaitanya Mangal. Actually, Sri Lochandas Thakur's appearance day was yesterday. He is the author of Chaitanya Mangal. A very illustrious personality. He's written mostly on the earlier pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is discussing primarily the later pastimes. And in the later pastimes, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us extraordinary things about how to bring about pure love of God. Srila Rupa Goswami has described Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Namo Mahavadanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Goda Twishye Namaha. He says, I'm offering my respects to Mahavadanaya, the most merciful, most compassionate. And why is he most merciful, most compassionate? Because Krishna Prema Pradayate. He is giving Krishna Prema, love of God. There is nothing more valuable in life that one can receive. We saw so many things that are wrapped in presents under the Christmas tree, and we're wondering, what is the most valuable gift I can get? But the most valuable gift we can get is actually lying dormant within our own hearts. We don't have to search anywhere to find it. It is right here. And that is love of God. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes to show us how to find it. Just like if somebody gives you a map, and it has a map that's giving you the directions to a very vast, lost treasure, we would consider that map to be extraordinarily valuable. Right? This is a map which will show us where to go step by step to find this great treasure. Well, this is our map. This is our map to show us how to find and awaken this love of God. It is the greatest treasure. And the glory of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was, he did not hold back that information. That map for a lost treasure we would keep top secret. Why? because somebody may go and take it. But in this treasure, there is an unlimited supply. The more that is distributed, the more the supply grows. That is the glory of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He distributed to everyone and anyone. And he said this great treasure is available with a very simple process. Chanting of the holy names. He often quoted the verse, Harinam, 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 Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nashteva, 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 Gatirnyata. In this age of Kali, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way than chanting of the holy names, chanting of the holy names, chanting of the holy names. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us this great gift of the map to find this greatest treasure. And Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has documented this process in presenting to all of us the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Like I said, we won't go into so much history of how it came about. That was given last time. So I thought this time we could discuss one of the most important sections of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Let's get right into the heart of it. There are 9 volumes here. And this section that we'll speak from today is considered like the essence of this Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we'll discuss today. We'll read from Madhya Lila, chapter 22, verse 100. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita
Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
We offer our obeisances to all the great associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu so that we may study this. So we'll read from, again, Madhya Lila chapter 2, verse 100. And the title is The Process of Devotional Service. Anukula se sankalpa pratikulya savarjanam rakshishati iti vishvaso gopritve varanam tata atma nikshepa karpanye shadvida sharanagatihi. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. The 6 divisions of surrender are the acceptance of those things favorable to devotional service, the rejection of unfavorable things, the conviction that Krishna will give protection, the acceptance of the Lord as one's guardian or master, full self-surrender, and humility. Purport. One who's fully surrendered is qualified with the 6 following characteristics. 1. The devotee has to accept everything that is favorable for rendering transcendental loving service to the Lord. 2. He must reject everything unfavorable to the Lord's service. This is called renunciation. 3. A devotee must be firmly convinced that Krishna will give him protection. No one else can actually give one protection, and being firmly convinced of this is called faith. This kind of faith is different from the faith of an impersonalist who wants to merge into the Brahman effulgence in order to benefit by cessation of repeated birth and death. A devotee always wants to remain in the Lord's service. In this way, Krishna is merciful to his devotee and gives him all protection from the dangers found on the path of devotional service. 4. The devotee should accept Krishna as the supreme maintainer and master. He should not think that he is being protected by a demigod. He should depend only on Krishna, considering him the only protector. The devotee must be firmly convinced that within the three worlds, he has no protector or maintainer other than Krishna. 5. Self-surrender means remembering that one's activities and desires are not independent. The devotee is completely dependent on Krishna, and he acts and thinks as Krishna's desires. A devotee is meek and 6. A devotee is meek and humble. Lord Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Sarvasya chaham ridishani visto matashpatir gyanam apohanam cha vedaisya sarviraham eva vedyo vedanta krud veda eva chaham. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of the Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. Situated in everyone's heart, Krishna deals differently according to the living entity's position. The living entity's position is to be under the protection of the illusory energy or under Krishna's personal protection. When a living entity is fully surrendered, he is under the direct protection of Krishna, and Krishna gives him all intelligence by which he can advance in spiritual realization. The non-devotee, however, being under the protection of illusory energy, increasingly forgets his relationship with Krishna. Sometimes it is asked how Krishna causes one to forget. Krishna personally causes devotee to forget material activities, and through the agency of Maya, Krishna causes the non-devotees to forget his devotional service. This is called apohanam. Okay. So I'll just read the verse again. The 6 divisions of surrender are the acceptance of those things favorable to devotional service, the rejection of unfavorable things, the conviction that Krishna will give protection, the acceptance of the Lord as one's guardian or master, full surrender, and humility. So, this chapter, the process of devotional service, is one of the most important chapters in this Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is explaining the process, as the title says, of devotional service. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is instructing. Anybody knows who Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is instructing in this chapter? He is instructing Sanatana Goswami. So, I thought we could discuss a little bit about the history of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami to bring the context to this discussion here. And we know the 6 Goswamis. We have heard their names. We have maybe understood something about them. So let us discuss a little bit more today about Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, because this instruction is from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami. So that's a little bit of background. So Rupa and Sanatana Goswami were 2 brothers. Sanatana Goswami was the elder brother. Rupa Goswami was the younger brother. They had another brother as well. And they were very high-class brahmanas. And they had taken up positions in the ruling kingdom of Bengal, working under Nawab Hussain Shah. So they were working for the Muslim ruler. They were not only working for him, they had achieved very extraordinary positions. Rupa Goswami was the, we can say, finance minister. And Sanatana Goswami was basically the prime minister. So they were running the whole kingdom. And at this time, some 500 years ago, the kingdom of Bengal was considered the most prosperous kingdom of the world. At this point, America was nothing. Europe was fractured, all their parts. In Bengal, this was considered the most opulent, the most wealthiest kingdom. And its 2 principal rulers under the king were Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. Now, it's a very peculiar position for the 6 Goswamis that we may understand. But this is where they came from. And they're going to teach us this principle of surrender to their own actions. So though they had these positions, they were pure devotees. They came from the spiritual world to participate with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in spreading this message of love of God. And so they were always longing when we can leave this position and begin to serve fully. when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Rupa and Sanatana Goswami in Ramkeli, they were desiring when we can come. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told them, your time will come when you may join my movement, join the army. But until then, you don't tip off, reveal your heart to your employer by becoming lackadaisical in your work. You become more determined in your activities. He quoted a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. And in this way, Rupa and Sanatana Goswami carried on their mission. But after some time, they decided it is time to leave. And so Rupa Goswami was the first to leave. He resigned, submitted his resignation papers, and he left. When he left, he was so rich. He was a finance minister, and he was so expert that he was paid very nicely by the Nawab. That it is explained that he had boatloads of gold coins. Boats full of gold coins. And when he left, he gave us this very important principle. I think we were talking about it last week or a couple of weeks ago, about how one should divvy up their wealth. And so he donated 50% of his gold coins to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. He distributed another 25% of his wealth to his family for their maintenance and protection. And then he held back 25% for any emergency. He understood some situation may arise in the future that may require some money. And so in this way, he gathered all his wealth, distributed accordingly, and made his way towards Vrindavan. He had sent 2 messengers to Puri to find out when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was coming to Vrindavan. He wanted to meet, but actually they ended up meeting at Prayag. And there, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Rupa Goswami for 10 consecutive days and nights on all the science of devotional service. And from that instruction, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then told, you now go to Vrindavan and you begin to write all of the Shastra on what I have explained to you. And you begin to uncover all of the holy places of Vrindavan. At this point, Vrindavan was a lost jungle. All the very important places and tirthas that we may now visit were completely lost 500 years ago. And it was due to the great efforts of Rupa Sanatana Goswami and the other Goswamis that Sri Vrindavan Dham became manifest again to all of us. So in this way, Rupa Goswami continued on. Now Sanatana Goswami, he was left doing his prime minister duties and the finance minister duties. He was doubled up. He was also thinking how I can leave. But the Nawab was not going to accept any resignation because he'd already lost Rupa Goswami. So he was lamenting how I can do something, And he decided that he would get himself fired by not performing his work. Just like sometimes we ask our children to do something. They do it wrong, just so the mother will say, I'll do it myself. At least that was my strategy. So like that, Sanatana Goswami decided that he would take sick leave. And he called in sick. They had sick leave back in those days also. And he started, I can't come to work. And so for many days he did not come to work. And what he was doing? Lying in bed, watching TV. He had gathered some 30 brahmanas into his home. And they would sit and they were studying Srimad Bhagavatam. They were reading voraciously the nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam. And in this way, he was studying, carrying on. But many days had passed. And the king was worried. Sanatana Goswami has not missed a day of work until now. And now all of a sudden. So he sent his physician, you go see. What is this? What's going on? So his physician goes into the house Back in those days, there was no knocking. He just walked in. He just walked into this thing and said, Sanatana Goswami he's so illustrious and so enthused reading Srimad Bhagavatam. He's not lying on a bed, sickened, pale, emaciated. No. He's enlivened. And so the message came back, and the Nawab decided to pay him a visit directly. And he went to see Sanatana Goswami, and he said that, you must now return to work. Your brother has already left. And the king at that time was preparing. He wanted to go to conquer Orissa. Orissa was being ruled at that time by a Hindu king, and the Nawab wanted to attack Orissa. And he knew that in his absence, Sanatana Goswami would maintain everything to perfect order. And that was his great service. The Nawab was free to travel wherever he wanted because of such a great administration and ruling by Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. And at this point, so he said, you are preventing and holding back my plan. And Sanatana Goswami said, I cannot join you. You are going to step into the land of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Obviously, Lord Jagannath's Kshetra. He said, you're on your own. And for this, the Nawab became upset, and so he put him in jail. He said, if you will not work, I'll not let you go free. And he put him in jail. And so Sanatana Goswami was in jail. If you go to, it's in Bangladesh, at the border, you can see this jail. It's very nice, not nice, but it's a very auspicious place. I've been there, and it's a very beautifully constructed jail actually. So this place is still there. And so he was put in jail, and there he was trying to figure out how he's going to get out. And one letter came from Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami had sent him a letter and letting him know that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has now left Puri and making his way to Vrindavan. You should also make your plans to get out. I was thinking, I would like to, but how? And then he said that before he left, Rupa Goswami told him, he had deposited 10,000 gold coins with the merchant. Back then, there was no banking system, so people would keep their money with trusted merchants. So in this way, Sanatana Goswami realized that he had his way out. These 10,000 gold coins he would use to find his way out. So he approached the jailer, and he said, you are a learned man. He was not a learned man, but when you want some favor, you kind of puffed him up a little bit. So he said, you are a learned man. If you let me go, you'll get great fortune of the pious results of letting me go, and something good will come to you. On top of that, I'll give you 5,000 gold coins. So you'll benefit spiritually and materially. He wanted to make sure both angles are covered. So the jailer heard, but was not so enthused. And then so Sanatana Goswami ups the bribe. There's always a price. So he said, okay, I'll give you 7,000 gold coins. And the jailer said, yes, but when the king comes back, he'll take my life for letting you go. He said, no worries. Just tell him, I went to the river in the morning to pass stool, and I jumped into Ganga with my shackles on. Tell him you look, and in that way I would have drowned clearly with the shackles, and you'll be fine. And he said, don't worry, I'm not going to stay in this country. I'm going to a distant place. He actually told him he was going to Mecca to become a mendicant, whatever it takes. So finally the jailer was convinced, and he cut his shackles and he let him go. And so in this way Sanatana Goswami escaped. And because he could not travel the main roads, this is a famous person, right? He was the prime minister of the land. So he had to travel the back roads, which we know the back roads are always very dangerous. And so Sanatana Goswami is making his way, and he came to this hilly land area. And he came upon one motel, kind of roadside motel, if you will, at those times. And this motel keeper, he had a great plan. He was a very expert in his trade. I wouldn't say noble, but very expert in his trade. He was a thief. So he had his receptionist was a astrologer who could see through anyone. And he could see anyone coming, how much wealth they had. And so based on that, they would make plans to plunder this person, sometimes even kill the person. So when Sanatana Goswami came, he was traveling with one assistant, Ishan. And they came. And the astrologer, after seeing them, told the keeper, these people have lots of money. They have 8 gold coins they're carrying with them. And so in this way, the motel keeper gave very nice facility to Sanatana Goswami. Welcome, here's some food grains, please cook. Gave him a nice place to sit, nice place to take bath, all this. And Sanatana Goswami, being very expert, thinking, why this shopkeeper, this motel keeper is giving me such nice respect? Something is up. And he asked Ishan, are you carrying any money with you? He says, yes, I'm carrying 7 gold coins. How many gold coins was he carrying? 8. But he said he was carrying 7. So he said, why you did this? This is not proper. So he went back to the shopkeeper, the motel keeper, excuse me. And he said that, sir, my servant here is carrying 7 gold coins, and I'll give them to you. You can have them. Now the motel keeper was shocked. He said, you have no idea. We were planning to kill you tonight, to rob you of your wealth. And my astrologer told me that you had these coins. He actually says you had 8 coins. And so Sanatana Goswami says, you take it. And the motel keeper says, no, I cannot keep this now. You are a very saintly person. Please, you keep your money, and I'll help you cross this hilly land at night. I'll send some people with you. It's a very dangerous, difficult path, but I'll help you cross this land. But I don't want your money. He had some guilt in his heart. But Sanatana Goswami said, no, you take this wealth. This wealth is just a recipe for disaster. If you don't kill me for it, somebody else will. Better I go empty-handed. We know the poor man sleeps with his doors unlocked and no fears. The rich man sleeps with security guards, dogs, cameras, high fencing, always scared. The great kings, they would live in their royal palaces, but they're always worried. Who is trying to poison them? Who is going to try to take them? And they were always worried about their most inside people. They weren't worried about the other kingdoms. They were always worried about their inside people. I went to this French palace last year, and the guide was telling us that this king, he was so neurotic. He would not trust anybody in his inner court because they're always worried about who is trying to take their wealth. So you can think that, so Sanatana Goswami understood. So he said, you take this. And in this way, this motel keeper arranged 4 men to take Sanatana Goswami and Ishan across this very hilly land. And when they came to the other side, Sanatana Goswami told Ishan, you now go, you have this 1 gold coin, you go back. He did not want anything to do with him anymore. And he wanted to send him back home. So Sanatana Goswami continued on. And he continued on. He reached one city, and he actually ran into his brother-in-law. His sister's husband, Shikant, was there. And he was a very also powerful man. He was carrying 300,000 gold coins. He was there buying horses for the emperor. And so Shikant, seeing his brother-in-law, as a mendicant, beard, torn, dirty clothes, he said, you stay here a couple days. Let me get you some new clothes, get some rest, take some food. Sanatana Goswami said, no, I'm not even going to stay here 1 moment. I am on my way to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Shikant then said, okay, at least take this 1 woolen blanket. So he took this woolen blanket and he carried on. And so Sanatana Goswami continued, and he reached Benares. And there Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was staying in the home of Chandrasekhar. So just outside the door, Sanatana Goswami had gone and sat down. He did not knock on the door. He just sat down outside. He considered himself to be a very fallen person because he was one working for this ruler. He become entrapped in all his material duties. And so he considered himself very low-born. Though he was of high-born class, and of course a most perfect Vaishnava, he was very humble. And so he sat outside the door. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Krishna and all-knowing, so he knew. So he told Chandrasekhar, hey, some great devotee has come to your home. You're so fortunate. Go get him. So Chandrasekhar opens the door, looks around. Says, I don't see any devotee. He saw one mullah, big beard, torn clothes, dirty. He said, I don't know. He closed the door, went back. He said, what happened? He says, there's no great devotee. There's just one mendicant sitting there. He said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you bring that mendicant here. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes and sees Sanatana Goswami walking in. And he becomes so ecstatic. And they embrace. Now Chandrasekhar is shocked. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is embracing this mendicant, this bearded mullah. How? And tears are flowing from his eyes. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was crying in ecstasy, as was Sanatana Goswami. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sits Sanatana Goswami on a very high seat, right next to him, and is embracing him. And with his own hands, he is cleaning the body of Sanatana Goswami. And Sanatana Goswami is saying, don't touch me. I am a fallen, low-born. Please don't touch me. He was uncomfortable with that. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, nonsense. I am touching you and cleansing you for my own purification. Of course, this is Krishna speaking out of his love for Sanatana Goswami. So we can understand this very high position of Sanatana Goswami. In this way, they exchanged great love. And then Sanatana Goswami was, sent, so he takes bath, and he was offered 2 pairs of new clothes. And Sanatana Goswami refused them. And that pleased Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very much. That he is, coming from a very materially prosperous position, he is even rejecting 2 pieces of new simple cloth. But he did say, somebody said, please take something. And so he asked Chandrasekhar, give me one used dhoti. And so he took one used dhoti, he tore it in half, and made 2 pieces of cloth out of that. And very simply was living. But when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw and heard this, he became very happy. But he took note of one thing. He kept staring at Sanatana Goswami. And what was he staring at? That very nice blanket that Shrikant had given him. He had this very nice, opulent blanket. And Sanatana Goswami could understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not approving of this. And so he went to the banks of the Ganges, and there one old sadhu had just washed his quilt and was drying it on the shore. And a quilt is just whatever cloth you have, you stitch them together to make a bigger blanket. It was all torn. And Sanatana Goswami says, I'll trade you my blanket for your quilt. And the sadhu was like, you're going to trade this very valuable wool blanket for my quilt? What's the catch? I said, no catch. He was convinced. And so Sanatana Goswami returned with this quilt. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, what happened to your blanket? And he told the story. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very happy. And the lesson in that is very instructive, that even the smallest attachments in the process of devotional service can lead to our fall down. Even the smallest of attachments. So we have to be very, very careful in that. So in this way, Sanatana Goswami is receiving the instruction. So all of this, what I just discussed, is presented here in Chaitanya Charitamrita, mostly starting from chapter 19 and 20, But now we are reading this verse from chapter 22. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after instructing Rupa Goswami, is now instructing Sanatana Goswami. And this verse was spoken directly by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami. So now we have the background. So we'll spend a few minutes discussing this verse. So there are 6 principles of surrender. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to teach one thing: how to surrender. Krishna said, Sarva dharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishmami nasuchaha. He said, you give up everything, abandon all varieties of religion, and just surrender unto me. The essence of the Bhagavad Gita is to bring us to surrender to Krishna. But how many of us are ready to surrender to Krishna? It's difficult. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes with the single goal of showing us how to surrender to Krishna. And what is the goal or the result of surrendering to Krishna? The greatest of all treasures. The greatest of everything one could want in life. And that is eternal bliss and happiness. So here, Krishna, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is giving us very important, what does it mean to surrender? And he says there are 6 principles. And the first is that to accept those things that are favorable in devotional service. What are favorable things in devotional service? ABCDs. What are one of them? Chanting. What else? You said, Prabhu?
Association with the devotees.
Association with the devotees. Reading Prabhupada's books. Prashadam. Being very enthusiastic. Following the regular principles. Being very humble. Avoiding bad association. These things are very favorable for devotional service. And those things should be accepted. But the second principle of surrender is, must reject everything that is unfavorable. What are unfavorable things for devotional service?
Material attachment.
Material attachments. Lust. Movies. Cricket matches. Whoops. Somerset Mall. They're unfavorable for devotional service. Just like any good businessman, he accepts transactions that are favorable for profit, and he rejects transactions that are unfavorable for profit. No? That is what a good business person does. Similarly, in trying to cultivate devotional service, we should accept those things that are favorable and reject those that are unfavorable. Now sometimes we don't know what is good and what is bad. What is favorable, what is not favorable. Okay? But with experience we can learn, with taking guidance, just like the businessman. In the early building of their business, they may not know what is good and what is bad, but they learn by experience. Oh, that one hurt. Better not do that again. I lost so much money. Like that, based on the principles of Shastra, Rupa Goswami is given a nectar of instruction. 6 things that are unfavorable for devotional service. Atyahara prayasascha, prajalpo niyamagraha. I'm forgetting the other ones. I'll forget it. Jana sangascha lolyamcha. So these 6 things: over endeavoring, acquiring too much things, nonsense talking, accepting or rejecting the scriptures for the wrong purposes, worldly association, and greed. These 6 things are unfavorable for devotional service. But then in the very next verse, he gives us the 6 favorable things. To be enthusiastic, to be confident. Confident that this result will come. Patient. It may not happen today or tomorrow, but it will come. Patient. To follow the principles. To avoid worldly association. And 6, to follow in the footsteps of the great acharyas like Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. We are followers of Rupa Goswami. Our parampara is coming through Rupa Goswami. Thus we are considered Rupanugas. So we have to follow. Follow doesn't mean to imitate, but to take the instructions. We may not be able to imitate the mood of renunciation of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. How renounced they were? They were so worried about attachments that they would sleep in the forest of Vrindavan. But each night they would sleep under a tree. But every night they would move to a different tree. Not to become attached to that tree even. That was the mood of surrender. Their pillow was their arm. Very, very austere. Now we cannot imitate such level of surrender. But we can understand the importance of it and try to apply as best we can. So following does not mean to imitate. Otherwise we'll be in trouble. The third principle of surrender, the first two are obvious. What's not obvious, which is good and which is bad, but the principles are pretty clear. The third, a devotee must be firmly convinced that Krishna will give him protection. Why is this required for surrender?
Otherwise, you want the enthusiasm.
Otherwise, why not? You're right, but why not?
Because we'll think that we are the doer.
We think we will be the protector. But if one has absolute faith, that's why Prabhupada says, firmly convinced that Krishna will protect us. A child has no difficulty surrendering to mother and father. Why? They have full faith in their protection. Think a young child says, "Mother, pick me up." And mother picks up. Now is a child thinking, I hope she doesn't drop me on my head because that would hurt? I hope when she walks to the door, my head doesn't hit the wall. Or I hope that someday I'll get some food. Or does a child think any of that? Why? Because they have full conviction in the protection of mother and father. They're surrendered. A young boy walking down a very dangerous alley, if holding the hand of his father, has no fear. No fear. Fully confident. Why? Because he has faith in the protection of father. So in order to surrender to Krishna, we must be convinced of the protection of ultimately Krishna. How much protection can mother and father give? Is it unlimited? It's not. Despite all efforts, still, sometimes things happen. Right? We are limited. But what is Krishna's ability to protect? Is there anything he doesn't see that he doesn't know about? Anything he doesn't know? Everything? Even that's going on inside that apartment, in the cave, in the sky, in the ground, he knows everything? Everything? Everything. So he knows everything, 1. 2, is there anything that Krishna cannot do? Anything? He can do anything?
Yeah.
Just by his will, he can do anything. It would be nice for us. I wish some idli dosa would come. And it would come. We cannot, but Krishna can. So he knows everything and nothing can stop him. And there's a third principle that describes Krishna. He is all-loving. Means he has no enemies. He loves everyone. Just like a father loves all of his children. We may not love him yet, but his love for us is undeterred. So Krishna knows everything, is capable of doing anything, and is all-loving. Then by definition, I am always protected by Krishna. Never will there be a moment I am not protected by Krishna. But what is Krishna protecting? That we have to understand. He is not protecting this body. He is protecting our process of bhakti. Just like if you're driving down the road and there is some accident. Do you want protection for the car or do you want protection for you as the driver? For us. Even if the whole car is dismantled, as long as you are okay, you're okay. Is that not right? That's what Krishna is. Krishna is protecting the soul and its journey back home. Yeah, the body may go through ups and downs. But Krishna's focus is on who we are as spirit soul. And to prove this protection, he performs so many pastimes. In the most epic of all battles, this battle of Kurukshetra, between the Kauravas and the Pandavas. Krishna presented to Duryodhana and Arjuna because he wanted to be neutral in the battle. He said, one of you can have me, but I will not fight, and one of you can have my army. So Duryodhana selected, well, if he's not going to fight, what good is he? I'll take the army. And Arjuna said, I don't need anything. With Krishna on my side, victory is assured. So they both got what they wanted. In the battle, we know that the battle was becoming very precarious. And Duryodhana became a little bit concerned. And he challenged Bhishma Pita that you're not fighting so valiantly due to your compassion for the Pandavas. So after some iterations, I'm shortcutting the story to make the point, that Bhishma Dev decided he was going to kill Arjuna. But his real mission was not to kill Arjuna. What his real mission was? To prove to all of us that Krishna's protection never falters. Even at the risk of him breaking his own word and tarnishing his own reputation. That much love Krishna has for his devotees. That was Bhishma's real intention. To prove the statement that Krishna made Arjuna speak earlier in the Bhagavad Gita, where he says, Arjuna, you declare it boldly, my devotee never perishes. So he began to fight very aggressively against Arjuna. And what did Krishna do? Hold his vow at the risk of his devotee suffering? No. He was willing to even break his word to protect his devotee. And he ran after Bhishma Dev, and Bhishma Dev surrendered. We see that Krishna is always there to protect his devotees. When Srila Prabhupada was crossing the Atlantic Ocean, he had suffered 2 heart attacks. And he was thinking, a third and I am finished. And in that night he had a dream. There's a beautiful painting of this in the Jaladuta diary. And in that in that dream, he saw that Krishna had come with all the Dashavatars, and they were rowing this Jaladuta across the Atlantic. They were towing it. They were in their boat, and they were pulling this boat. And when in the morning came, and the captain, went to meet with Srila Prabhupada. He says, I have been sailing across the Atlantic my whole life. Many, many decades. He said, I've never seen the Atlantic Ocean like this. It was smooth as ice, as if we are on a small pond. You can see Krishna's protection. Prahlad Maharaj, he was being tortured and tortured and tortured. But how was he remaining so calm? He had faith in the protection. And Krishna protected. And in our day-to-day lives, Krishna is always protecting us. The question is, do we see it? Do we acknowledge it? But again, yeah, some harm may come to the body. But what he is protecting, if we want him to, is our process of bhakti. That is the real protection that we can value. But one must have faith in that. Otherwise, we will not be able to surrender. Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami, we're not worried. If I give up all my position and all my wealth, where my chapatis will come tomorrow. They were not worried. They had faith in the protection of Krishna. 4. The devotee should accept Krishna as his supreme maintainer and master. He should not think that he's being protected by a demigod. He should depend only on Krishna. Krishna is the ultimate. Ishavasyam idam sarvam. Everything is coming from Krishna. Animate and inanimate. And Krishna has given all of us a quota by which we can maintain ourselves. So we should not have any lack of acknowledgement and understanding. Every breath we take is given by Krishna. Who is providing the air that we can breathe? Who is providing the sunlight so that some foodstuffs can grow? Who is arranging so that rains may fall so that we may have some crop? Who is arranging even the orbit of this planet? If it moves just a few feet, one direction or the other, we're all done. Either burnt or frozen solid. Who is maintaining all of that? Krishna says, I enter each planet and maintain it in its orbit. He says in Bhagavad Gita. He even enters, he is the fire in our belly to digest foods. We cannot even digest a single grain of rice without the fire of digestion. And Krishna says, I am that fire of digestion. So our entire existence is being maintained by Krishna. Yet I think I am the doer. I am my doer. But to have surrender, one must remember, Krishna is maintaining us all. And giving us everything we need. The 5th principle, self-surrender, means remembering that one's activities and desires are not independent. What does that mean? Does that mean one doesn't have desires? What is the desire of a devotee? Please Krishna. Please Krishna. In Shri Upanishad we say ekatvam. Krishna and his devotees are one. They're not one in identity. They are one in purpose. All the residents of Vrindavan, they have only one goal, and that is to enjoy with Krishna. And what is the desire of Krishna? To enjoy with his devotees. That is it. Those desires are not independent. Why we came to the material world? Because we had an independent desire to be separate from Krishna. But the devotee has only one goal. And Krishna has only one goal. That's to enjoy with each other. And the sixth principle of surrender is the devotee is meek and humble. How humble Sanatana Goswami was. He was a prime minister of the richest kingdom of the world. And he thought himself to be unsuitable to even see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That he waited outside the door. Now a prime minister comes. People roll out the red carpet for you. Receive you with grand pomp and circumstance. But he was so humble. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced him, he became uncomfortable, thinking, I'm unqualified. This meek and humble is extraordinarily important in our process of devotional service. If I think I am my own maintainer, I'm my own protector, where surrender will come? Tunadapi sunichena tarodapi shishna manina manadena kirtanya sadahari. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Tunadapi sunichena tarodapi shishna. One should be more humble than a blade of grass. When you step on a piece of grass, does it protest to accept your foot? It simply falls over at the weight of your foot, and it stands back up, waiting for the next. A tree, if you go and yell at this tree, will it stop giving you shade? Will it stop giving you apples if it is an apple tree? If you call it names? Even you chop off one of its branches, the other branch will still give you fruit. So much tolerant. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said we should become very tolerant. I don't get one extra samosa in the prasad line, I'm like, oh, this person is so bad. We teach our children to be tolerant. But where is our tolerance? And amanina manadena. I expect no respect. But I give respect to everyone. That is the mood Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is trying to bring about within all of us. Expect no respect, but give respect to everyone. This is meek and humble. Humble does not mean that I am insecure or I have low self-esteem. That is not humble. Humble means I have great esteem that I am the eternal servant of Krishna, but I am fully maintained and my existence is based on His mercy only. So Prabhupada completes this purport by talking about Krishna being situated in our heart. He is sitting here as Paramatma. If we have a desire to understand how to surrender to Krishna, He will help us with that. And by apohanam, He says, He'll help us forget all of our material attachments. But if we want to be separate from Krishna, that same principle, apohanam, will help us forget Krishna. So it is up to us. As we desire, Krishna will reciprocate. As we desire, He will reciprocate. So this very important verse, in this very important chapter, in this very important Chaitanya Charitamrita is being presented. And we discussed a little bit of pastime of Sri Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. And you can have very, very important acharyas in our sampradaya. So with that, any questions or comments? Everyone is ready to surrender? Nothing? Okay. So now we'll chant and try to surrender to Krishna through the process of the holy names. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki